Hey, fans of Who Killed Julie, Paul Sading, creator, writer of the show here. I wanted to release a special thank you to each and every one of you who have given the show a chance, who've taken the opportunity to download and listen to a new delivery in audio drama. And I was hoping to kind of share a little bit of my thoughts behind the scenes about the series and what you can expect in the future. But first, I wanted to thank you because it is different. I tried to replicate the docudramas that are very popular in true crime-esque type podcasts. I wanted to respect those and that category, but also fictionalize a story in that format. I did that intentionally, and it resulted in some people being upset about the show and leaving less than complimentary ratings and reviews for it because they felt they were duped. That wasn't my intention at all, but the story behind Julie was so important that I wanted to deliver it as close to factual as I could, with doing respect to real life shows that cover real life things that happen to real life people. Julie is not a real person, but she represents millions of people around the world. And that is why I chose to do this show in the format that I did. I did not want it to be something like Subject Found or Diary of a Madman, where you can tell it's obviously fictional. I did not want to do that. I did not want to do that because it detaches, and this topic is too important. Julie's story is too important. So who is Julie? Julie is an amalgamation of women I've met in my life, some of whom are very, very dear and important to me. You see, the reason I did Julie's story is because it's been building inside of me for years. I have loved ones who are survivors of sexual assault. Estimates vary, but between 1 in 3 to 1 in 5 women will have experienced sexual assault in their life. If half the world's population is women, that's 3.5 billion women. And removing some margin of error and people who may be too young, even though sexual assault reaches all ages, we're still talking about 500 million people, just women alone, who are victims of sexual assault. And there are men, untold scores of men, who are also victims of sexual assault. We will never know the true extent of this crime against people. It's very difficult for people to come forward and to talk about it. In my professional life, I have served in a capacity for being essentially what is a program manager for a sexual assault response program. I realize I'm a male, and I did this while in the military, at one installation. So I don't have, nor do I try to represent the entire snapshot of this very complex situation. But I can tell you, that experience changed my life and how I look at this stuff. I thought I was an ally to survivors of sexual assault before I did that job. That job taught me how much I didn't know about it, and I've since become a champion for it, using every opportunity I can to educate people. You see, I have privilege in that. I'm a male. And as a male, I see too many people who are ignorant. Too many people who don't know what they're talking about when it comes to the topic, and too many people who are too stupid or too apathetic to understand the damage that they do with the words that they say when they try to talk about sexual assault as if they know what they're talking about, when they clearly don't. They think they do, in fairness to them. They think they understand it enough to talk about it. I thought I did, until I worked in that program and met the survivors. I'm very proud of what I did in my time during that job. I actually set a command record for the most reports. The command is a level of management that manages multiple military installations. It's not a proud record in one sense, but it is in another. In that me and my team were able to create an environment that empowered survivors to come forward and seek whatever assistance they needed. I heard too many stories. Not that I didn't want to hear them, but that it really made me question the nature of humanity. It left an indelible mark on me as a human being. I'm already an empathetic person, but this really stretched my capacity for understanding. I could not believe some of the things that people did to other human beings. Some of the most atrocious displays of power and control and disregard for someone else's autonomy. I cannot believe we live in a world where people feel emboldened to sexually assault someone else, to do some of the things that I had reported to me and my team, in an environment as controlled as a military installation. It made me wonder what it would be like to extrapolate my experience during my time in that program across the country, across the continent, across the global population, and wonder what kind of atrocities are committed against one another and then dismissed because of ignorance, because of bias, because of prejudice. Many of the people who are supposed to be the best allies end up being the worst enemies to survivors. Cultural, religious, socio-political opinions taint the way we respond to survivors. Victim blaming is a great way to relegate a survivor and their experience. It helps people. It helps people make sense of why people would do that to one another. It helps people feel as if they are untouchable, that they would never find themselves in a situation similar to that the survivor did. It's all part of that rationalization process, but it damages. It damages and silences survivors. This is one of those issues where people have strong opinions, and a lot of those opinions aren't necessarily, they don't come from a place of anti-allyship, but they come from a place of ignorance and a lack of understanding. And in the conveyance of opinions from that kind of standpoint, often people do damage, unintentional, to survivors. A Facebook post about someone retracting an accusation of rape seems to garner a lot of champions, male and female. And I often wonder the veracity at which people want to celebrate that, where that veracity is when yet another assailant goes free, goes unreported, because of social and cultural pressures against the survivor of that act. When we talk from a point of ignorance, we harm. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but no one should be free from being confronted on their ignorance. And I make sure that I do that every chance I get, because I've seen what it can do to people. Again, I have loved ones who have been sexually assaulted. You, listening to this, know someone or a number of someones who has. You yourself may have been. It is rampant. And it's a social and cultural problem that we're not ready to deal with because we don't talk about it like we should. We don't help people understand the true cost of it. We allow people to be ignorant about it. We allow lies and fabrications to perpetuate. We lean on notions such as guilty until proven innocent. In a situation where proof is hard to come by, we're not even willing to accept that as a discussion point to start. Essentially, we've got a long ways to go when it comes to understanding and addressing sexual assault and the culture that permeates around the topic. There's too many enablers and too many ostriches. And that's why I created Julie's story. As I record this, even during the writing of the season, there's a painting that I hang on the wall of my office. It's directly in my eyesight as we speak. That painting came from one of the survivors that I worked with during my time as that program manager. She was a victim of numerous assaults, including a gang rape. She was young, and, as is typical in the military, away from home and any support network. And because we were overseas, she was befriended her first night in the country by a group of guys who wanted to be friends. Ultimately, over months and months and months, they cultivated a relationship that they ultimately took advantage of. It is much more disgusting than what I've shared with you. And in the name of privacy and decency, I'm not going to share any more details, but I'll let you imagine what that experience must have been like and how traumatizing it was. But this person left that installation before I did. And before she left, she made sure to give me this gift, a hand-painted image, a yin and a yang of a sunrise and a sunset that represented where she was when she met me and what she felt like after she left on her way out of that installation and leaving our program. Not just me, but our team helped her to get to a much healthier place in her life. She still had a long road to go, but she was walking down that road. I will forever treasure that gift and keep it as a reminder of what we can do when we just shut up and listen to a survivor, when we give them the benefit of the doubt. It can be a very powerful thing, and it can change lives when we do that for people. Change lives for the better. Julie represents not only those survivors that I met during my time, but the ones I've met after. The brave people who have shared their story with me throughout the years since then. Each and every one of them. I tried to hold no punches during the show. I tried to set up situations that were intentionally muddy, unclear, nebulous, ambiguous, because I wanted to start a dialogue. I wanted fans of the show to think. My hope is that you had an emotional reaction to the story, and my hope is that you'll go back and you'll think and reflect on Julie's story and your reaction to it. Challenge biases, preconceived notions, prejudices, and assumptions. Understand that you don't know everything about a person's life, about a person's situation. That we weren't there, and even when we are there, we don't see and understand everything. And even the people directly involved don't always understand the situation they're in. That's the facts of this, folks. Instead of spending time and energy assuming we know and casting accusatory statements, isn't it time to listen, to understand, to support? I hope Julie's story has done that for you. Because Julie's story is the story of us. But Julie's story isn't the end of the Emerald Johnson series. I have a number of story ideas listed out. Some of them, like the next one, the Roderick Elba story, are in development already, being outlined. I would like to make that series happen, but I can't do that alone. You see, audio drama is incredibly expensive. This past season was done by all volunteers, but we can't do that again in the future. You heard how talented they were. They gave up that time, all of that time, hundreds and hundreds of hours each, to create what you enjoyed over those 7 episodes. Going forward, it's our hope that you will support us. We will do a fundraiser in the future, but in the meantime, you can also help us get there. How? By becoming a Patreon supporter. If you go to Patreon, patreon.com/Paul Sading, or go to my website, paulsading.com, and click on the support tab, you can find the Patreon feed and the different levels, ranging from $1 all the way up. I've recently restructured the reward and goal tiers, so we will progressively be working towards funding different projects. The current project in the funding cycle is the 3rd season of Subject Found. Once that project is funded, we'll get to work on that. But immediately following the funding of that 3rd season, the very next project in the queue is the follow-on to Who Killed Julie. So if you want to help us get there, become a patron today. At any level, each dollar counts. And the thing is, you get to enjoy all sorts of exclusive content each and every month. Just because a show is in an off-season doesn't mean that we won't be creating content. We will. All sorts. Drama, thrillers, horror, some sci-fi, dystopic fiction, and even fantasy. So if you feel the show is important, if you believe that the follow-on series is worth $1 or $10 a month, head over to patreon.com/Paul Sading and support the show. Beyond that, there will be more coming from the Emerald Johnson series. So be sure to head over to paulsading.com, check the show notes for the link, and sign up for the newsletter so that you don't miss a single update. One more time, I do want to thank you for your download and your listen and your support of this show. To each and every one of you who did do that, who did leave a rating and a review, who did tell a friend to check it out, thank you for sharing Julie's story, the story of us.